right, guys, if everybody can take attendance, scan the QR code and we'll start in a minute.
Prep. Am I doing the
You're just share your fragrance, but
Yes, I want to share my birthday. I don't want it to all be in.
But first, take attendance if you haven't yet. And yeah, attendance again, really important. Gets us more money. All right.
Yeah. So, kind of like the traditional thing, we're going to go over a couple like recent current events. So the first one is Arc. Who here has heard of the like Arc browser?
I heard of it.
Cool. Does anyone use it?
No.
What? It's amazing. So
Music Man.
they had a
No, it's on Windows, but that's free gift.
yeah. So Arc had a pretty bad remote code execution vulnerability in this little feature called boosts. So what this can do is you can essentially like personalize the site, and then you can do a bunch of different things with it. But you can change essentially like what a site looks like on your end, and it uses JavaScript to do that. And the thing is, anything that Arc will use, so you can take this boost or this customization and you can share it with like somebody online, or if you use multiple devices on Arc, it'll sync it through like their servers. And there was a researcher who found that the way that these boosts were stored on Arc's side uses what's called a Firebase database, and the creator ID for like each individual user could be changed. So what you could theoretically do is create like a malicious boost, because it essentially runs JavaScript on like your browser. And then if you can brute force or figure out what like the sequence is for all of the other creator IDs like in the Firebase thing, you can potentially like force a boost into somebody's browser and then get them to execute malicious JavaScript without them ever opening a tab or anything like that. So I think it came out like in like late August or something, and then late September they actually did the disclosure, and then they patched it the next day. So it was never actually used. It was never actually like exploited in the wild. But that could be a potentially like that would have been huge, because Arc is very new and they have a pretty good reputation, and this is the first major security issue that they've had since they started. So, but yeah, that was the Arc Boost RCE.
The next big vulnerability this week was Western Digital. It was a remote code execution. Who knows what Western Digital is? A couple of us. Okay, so they make hard drives. One of the other things they're known for is making home cloud appliances. So you can buy appliance from them, put hard drives in it, and you basically have your own mini cloud. So with this vulnerability, basically somebody was able to do a man-in-the-middle attack for DNS and execute their own code on these Western Digital cloud appliances. The next current event was a Verizon outage. There's not a whole lot of information on what was going on with that, but if you guys have Verizon, if anybody has Verizon, you probably noticed it the past week or two. It was pretty bad. In the spirit of exploitation, we're going to go over Nmap again. With Nmap, you grab service banners, you scan ports, and basically find version numbers. So with that, here's a refresher if you don't remember. We'll kind of go through the list again if you want to.
Yeah. So the common ones again are like for port ranges, you can do TACP. TACPN will force it will basically run the scan regardless of whether or not the host actually responds or if it's actually active or not. For the sake of like the vulnerability stuff that we're going to be doing, the big ones that we're going to focus on are the service scans or the fingerprinting scans. So like SVC is going to be a big one. But yeah, and then there's a couple other ones. So like the TCP scan, UDP scans, outputting to a text file. That is also fairly useful if you were going to like, so let's say for example, you ran like a fingerprint or a version scan against some host and then you output that to a file. You can use the built-in Nmap ones to depending on what kind of file output you want it to be. So like if it's like text or like XML or something like that, then you can potentially put that into some other tools to do some more like handling and stuff. But yeah, for the sake of this one, we're just mostly going to focus on the fingerprinting. So the SVC and similar ones.
All right, and then we do have a little bit of a challenge for you. Later, we do have a box that you will hack into. This challenge is just a challenge on finding services and versions. So if you go onto your Kali Linux box, go to the terminal, and then start an Nmap scan, replace the IP like we did previously, and use scanme.nmap.org. Just see what you can find out about it. Yeah.
What if we weren't here last time?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Rain, I'm gonna set like a five-ish minute timer.
Yeah. Don't joke that having explode this video.
Yeah.
Okay, open new terminal.
All right, I'll go back to the slides for you, or for this example slide.
Scan. Scan. Figure out whatever you can about it. I'm looking at my flags.
Sometimes with WSL you have to enable the hypervisor as well.
Yeah, you already have
Sorry.
Yeah, I think
They're like that.
so many.
This one doesn't sound like this.
I don't see if we have Nmap.
You can do ZenMap. So when this happens, just fix itself.
That's good.
So type
Yeah.
Nmap.
It happens very fast.
Oh man, you gotta practice screaming.
Space. And here we go. And then get flags.
Are you pushing from up here or from here?
I don't know.
Try pushing from here. Way.
I don't know how to read it.
Like if you're breathing out hard.
So down, I mean,
Pushes up here.
where are those flags?
It's just,
Well, So the host is not.
I have no idea.
So which one of those flags is going
There
to
you go.
force
There you go.
Yeah, keep it
See if you can try.
I have to breathe a little more.
No.
Yes. So dash P and
Yeah.
if you don't, so you do the command you did before, add.
What's going on? You trying to get shit done and don't. That's nice. Yeah.
Alrighty, that's the timer. Did everyone or majority of you get a chance to scan Nmap, whatever it was? Scan me Nmap.
I'll
Cool.
be scanning.
Thanks.
Control shift equals E.
Alrighty.
Here, okay, I'm just gonna screen
Really-
it. So this is so if you guys did the scan, this is like an example output of what it would look like if you ran Nmap against ScanMe without any like flags at all. So that's just the common one. So I think by default it'll just basically check if the ports are open, and that's about it. So in this case, there's only 4 different ports that are open. I think actually it might be different now because I think mine was different. It might be slightly, yeah, because my Mac has a different output than that.
It's because you're on Mac. That's why.
Yeah, okay. It's always the problem.
Like Mac.
But so that's one example. And then if you were to only do TAC-P on 80, it'll only scan port 80, which is used mostly for HTTP. Another example is, so this is the version scan against all ports, which is the TAC-P TAC, and then it's going to scan it whether or not it's actually like alive or not. And one thing to kind of consider is the more flags and stuff that you put with your scan, a lot of times that will increase the amount of time that it'll take. So if we were actually like, yeah, so if we just did one port with no flags, essentially, it only took 0.13 seconds. But with all these other flags, it took like 12.5 minutes. So that does change depending on the host and stuff like that. But yeah, just keep in mind the more flags that you put on, it does have to do more processing and stuff. So it will take up a little bit more time. But yeah, so with that, this is
Alrighty. So what is vulnerability research? Any takers? Or is it up there? It's up there. So basically, vulnerability analysis is the process of identifying, classifying, and assessing security vulnerabilities. Security vulnerabilities. So an example, so after you Nmap a host, you might get a version back for a software like VS FTPD 2.3.4. So next you're going to want to research what that is, and it's just an FTP server. And oftentimes if you put the word exploit or GitHub after it, it'll have exploits or GitHub links if they exist. For example, this one has a backdoor that if you put a smiley face, I believe it's after the user parameter, it'll just spin up a shell. Is it password?
I think so.
One of the parameters.
I think it's username.
Is it? Yeah.
Is it user?
It's the username, smiley
Yeah.
face, and the password.
Yeah.
Okay.
It spins up a shell on port, I think it's 6000
Yeah,
that you just
something.
connect to.
6200 maybe.
Yeah, something like that. But that's like a lot of how, for example, like finding vulnerabilities works, or finding a vulnerability on a service on a box. Just literally Google the version or similar things to it. Common places to look. So Google, obviously. ExploitDB has some. GitHub as well. There's also a tool called SearchSploit, which is just going to search for vulnerabilities locally. So in your Kali boxes, if you have it, SearchSploit space, basically a string or whatever, like VS FTPD, and it'll show you like all the VS FTPD related vulnerabilities. And then you can also use search in Metasploit. So once you launch it, just search and then name. Exploitation. You can also find like some blogs and stuff. It happens to be Rains, and has some good stuff in it. And there's usually guides and stuff that'll show you how to do it and prove that it's not just like fake or something that's going to put a shell on your box. So that leads us to the challenge. So scan the following IP and port, do some research, and exploit the system to find the flag. So yeah, good luck. There's a flag on it, right? No. Okay, there's no flag on
There's
there.
no flag, but you will get onto the system.
So
Once you find the version number, look it up, and you should find a blog that shows you how to exploit it.
all right, I'm going to turn the music back on here. Oh shoot, I should breathe it. Yeah.
Cheat sheet back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's on that.
Well,
scan it in James. You can scan my point. Hey, please. Wait, not scanning all of them.
Is that on the screen?
What am I seeing?
First, we'll start off with a Nmap scan.
So if you look that up,
We're going to start it with the SVC flags. These flags are going to
yeah.
try to see the version, and then the C
This
is going to run default scripts on it. Next, followed by the IP. We're going to use the TAC-P flag, which is going to specify our port 4444, and then we'll go ahead and scan it.
That looks like a version. So if you go to your browser, you look at
One problem you might run into is it will kind of error out like this.
1, 2,
This is where the TAC-P end comes in. Basically, what this means is when we go to scan it, Nmap tries to ping it. A ping is just basically, hey, are you there? My computer didn't say anything to it. So this TAC-P end is basically going to say, we're going to scan the port no matter if you say you're there or not. If you respond or not, we're going to scan you.
all right.
This might take a minute or two.
So execution.
I didn't do it.
Oh, it's right. It's right. That would explain it. I don't know.
Not a problem. Good security.
No, it's because I tried to ping. I was helping them do it, and I pinged it. It's like, oh, why can't?
Pause this. So using that cap. Well, you can actually just so you can copy and get to the.
Do you already have one? Oh, you do. You checked. You see.
Control shit, because if you do Control V,
Alrighty.
it just
Looks like our scan is done. There's a bunch of random information in here. All you have to know is this doesn't matter. If Nmap runs into a version, a service that it doesn't recognize, it's going to give this output. But we can see right here, this is the output that the server did give Nmap. So let's go ahead and research this. Let's go ahead and copy this and go to where's your browser?
Yeah.
Go to our browser and just paste in the software number. Okay, right away we can see there's a blog made by me on this super sophisticated piece of software, right? So if we scroll down, basically says, hey, here's our version number, and this has remote code execution. Who knows what remote code execution is?
So what?
Couple people. So remote code execution is a vulnerability where when we exploit it, we can run commands on the machine. So with this, if we follow this proof of concept, we'll just go through each of these steps. We'll be able to get remote code execution. So first, we're going to do a git clone. This basically says, hey, I'm going to go out and download the exploit code. Usually don't trust code by itself. Don't download code like that, but I made it. I already looked at it. And then you can see here, if we do an ls command, it lists all the files. There's this walkie-talkie software, RCE, so we can do a cd walkie-talkie.
This command.
And here is a Python script. We're going to use this Python script to exploit the server. Going back to the blog, we already did this step. The next step is to create a Python virtual environment. You might have to install it. We just found out that it's not automatically installed on Kali Linux. But once you run this command, it will tell you what command to run to install it. One thing you might have to do in order to install it is to run a sudo apt upgrade
I think what's happening.
and a sudo apt update. But I don't recommend doing that right now because it's going to take a while. So we'll go ahead with this step and we'll create the virtual environment.
See, because like mine's like.
Not installed. Actually, we'll go ahead and go through the updates. So you see This is the problem right here. It's saying, hey, you don't have this installed. So let's install it. We'll do a sudo apt install python venv.
That's what I'm.
Oh, I
Alrighty, looks like we finally got it installed. So if some of you had the error, just do the same thing. Sudo apt install python 3.10 venv.
Maybe a different version.
Yeah, it might be a different version. Just look at your output. Go ahead and create the venv.
I think if you do
Yeah,
Python 3 VM, just do the latest version.
And we'll go ahead and run this next command. We'll source the venv and activate it. And then we're going to do an install pwn tools. I think, oh, it's installing it again. Yeah. Alrighty. Now we have pwn tools. Pwn tools was basically a dependency that the script needed to exploit the server. Now, last step, we'll copy this exploit command. Copy and paste it. We're going to replace this port placeholder right here with 4444. And then the IP, we're going to have to scroll all the way up. Insert your IP address. Run the script. Some factual statements are going to pop up on the screen. And you see we exploited it. So with this $sign right here, this was a remote code execution vulnerability again, right? So we exploited this IP right here on this port. And what this means, since I have remote code execution, is I can run commands on that on that server. It looks like we have some other people writing some code on here, which is fine. But yeah. If you're successfully able to get to this point, you were able to get on the server.
So if you get a shell and it's your first shell, you should take a selfie with the shell and be like, I found a shell, post it on LinkedIn, and then rub it in CTF clip space.
Yeah. Common thing to do is a shell dance.
Yeah, what's your shell?
I'm not gonna show that off right now.
Do
But no,
Do it.
you do the shell dance. Yeah.
Otherwise, CTF.
Raise your hand if this is the first vulnerability you've exploited. Okay,
Cool.
a few. Very cool. Nice. Nice.
He says raise your hand.
Plus fingers. Do the shell response.
No. No.
Okay.
No. Sprinkler. But yeah, from the $sign, if you want to exit out of the machine, you can just do a Control C, and then you're out, and then you can do an exit, and then you're out of the Python environment.
Awesome.
So yeah, that is all we had today. If you guys have any feedback or suggestions, scan the QR code, let us know, or message me on Discord. Thanks for coming.